Hello and welcome back. In this lecture, we will be learning about serverless computing products that are available in Microsoft Azure platform. You might be wondering what exactly the serverless, and also on top of it, there's a word called serverless. That means you may be thinking that there are no servers, but that's not the case. There are actually servers involved that run our applications and our code, but what they really mean by serverless is here we don't have to worry about the servers and administrating the servers or any maintenance or anything like that. Let's try to take one of the example and then try to understand, like you have a code and you try to upload the code and we run that code. So we set up our code that to be triggered by either one of the Azure web services or maybe HTTP endpoints or something like that, and that's really making connections between our certain things to happen, and I want the code to be run. That's it. And when that certain things happens, like someone calls maybe a specific HTTP endpoint, for example, if we wanted to set up our code to be triggered when an Azure blob is saved, like some file gets saved in the Azure storage, and then that event triggers automatically, then this code should be executed, something like that we can configure, and it's only going to be charged for us for the resources that we used while it was running our code. Once our code is run, we are no longer paying for any kind of charges for the servers or for anybody. So it's very cost effective model, but also it provides us with a lot of less maintenance and administration on our end, and we provision some of these serverless products, and we don't have to tell what kind of CPU we're going to use or what kind of RAM we wanted to use. We don't have to configure any kind of scaling. All that has to be done from our end. A server is automatically provisioned and when our code needs to be run, and that entire process can be scaled out, and we have lot of triggering events happening, so that all of that our requests are in handled in a relatively quick manner. And again, this is all managed for us. We don't have to worry about any of our serverless computing or server specific things. Let's take a look at one of the live example, and before we jump into the live example, what the core components that we have within the serverless is. The first one would be the Azure Functions and Azure Logic Apps and Azure Event Grids. So these are the three things which are made up with the serverless computing within Microsoft Azure, and these are the most used things. You can check out this link about more about the Azure Functions. So exactly Azure Functions does to execute the code. So it can execute the code that you wanted to run by using the functions. So functions are used to execute the code in your interested language. Let's say you wanna run with maybe C# or Java or JavaScript or Python or PowerShell, whatever the language you are familiar, in that you can run your code by just to place that code, and we can run that code to automatically to happen. And also you can do your own dependencies within the functions, and these are the features that are available within the Azure Functions. And also with the Azure Functions, you can run HTTP or timer, a Cosmos DB specific or blob storage, queue storage, event grid, EventHub, Service Hub queue, ServiceBus topic. All that can be connected, or it can be responded, or it can be integrated within the Azure Functions. And it's gonna only paid for only consumption plan based, and also you can go for the premium plan and app service plan also. It all depends what kind of plan we are going to take it. In one word, Azure Functions will be used for triggering the code which you are putting into your choice of language. Azure Logic apps are out of the box things like you want to connect with some of the services and do some kind of for each kind of loops or if else or true case. All that flow kind of things can be used within this logics, and it's all about the drag and drop mechanism. I'm going to demonstrate one of the application that we can use it within the by using logic apps. And event grid is simplifying your events that to be delivered by eliminating that pooling all that mechanisms with in a cost effective way. So what we're going to do is now I'm going to jump into a live example for making up one of the application based on the serverless computing. So you see here there's an employee onboarding. So this is one of the application we wanted to think about it. Let's say you have an employee who has accepted your offer for your company, and once he has accepted that offer, it's going to be triggered some kind of an email. So what would happen is we would submit we would offer to the new joining with a link, and once he clicked on that link, it's going to actually trigger that function, and it sends to the logic to process. And what would happen is within this logic, as I said, logic apps can be integrated with out of the box things. Like in this case, I'm gonna integrate with Azure Active Directory and Office 365. Two things. So at the first part, I'm gonna do actually creating an Azure AD account, and also I'm sending that request or the email to send that information saying that, hey, this is the onboarding information, and you have to follow, these are the training schedules, or maybe some kind of a welcome note and all that. And also I'm going to mail to my boss on one of the resources going to join or something like that to notify with the help of Azure Logic apps. And also I'm going to invite for other employees to join and onboard and welcome him, something like that. I can do it within the Azure Logic app. So this kind of one simple application can be built without without much code to be written, and all this can be done with the serverless computing. And I hope this is useful, and let's jump into the demonstration of Azure Logic apps, where we're gonna demonstrate by taking some of the RSS feeds to filter out and do some kind of logic apps to be integrated, so that you would be getting an email, something like that. Let's take a look on the Azure Logic apps from the demonstration. And these are the logic apps we have created in the production. Now what we can do is we can simply go ahead and create one of the new application as one of the logic application. Here when you try to create here, you would be getting here as a designer. This is where the designer, this designer will have your HTTPS or Twitter feeds, or it can be Outlook, or it can be any other feeds that can be given as the input, and you can do it. So I will start with the blank logic app for this request, and then we can try to filter out. For example, what I would like to do it here is let's take one of the RSS feed, and whatever the feed has the blog post or some of the information which is coming from the RSS feed, we would try to convert that into a proper English language, and we make as a header information properly with the subject line and the body, and whatever it contains the value keyword called Azure. And then if that keyword is matches, then we would try to send that blog post information or RSS feed information to one of the email IDs. So that's how we would give it a try. That's a high level of the plan to create the Azure Logic apps. Now let's try this. So now what I'm going to do is, you have all these triggers which can use it. For example, you can schedule it or in a recurrence phase. So I wanted to do it every 5 minutes or 3 minutes, and simply give here this schedule is going to happen based on my RSS. You have a lot of other triggers, but I'm just choosing here as the RSS, and I can give here some of the proper RSS feed, and I can name this entire RSS feed as a proper naming connection, and then click on the next step. So here I can take the body to be included for each of this. So it's like your for loop. So I can mention here as the within this for loop for each of this RSS feed has whatever the values it is coming. I'm going to do for each of this RSS item here by adding one of the action item. So it's like for loop, right? So within this I'm going to add one of the within that body I wanted to look for a translation between this entire RSS, whatever the articles are coming up. So we wanted to translate the title and the text of that body also. So I need to here enter the text because we are into the still in the for each loop. So here the first one would be the body, and also I wanted to translate that body to a body as well as the feed title to English. And these are the two items which we wanted to translate. Once we have translated that, I'm just giving the proper name as a translate title, translate summary. As a next step, I need to choose other conditions here, an action. So the action would be I wanted to compose. That means I wanted to send it to somewhere else. So the input is here. I can choose as my JSON file format. So it should looks like my primary feedback and summary and title. All that I'm just trying to convert into the JSON format. So here just need to enter the dynamic content and these the expressions, all that information. Once I have this information, so this is going to be come for me as the translated one. And now as a next step I need to configure my email. So the action step to be configured as a next step. So just click on that add action. Now I'm gonna doing the performing some action here. I wanted to actually store the above JSON file information into my Cosmos DB. So here Cosmos DB is the DB which we have already discussed in the past. Like you can store any kind of data without any relationship, without any proper structure. So in this case the data is dynamic data. I don't know what kind of data is coming, so I'm just choosing here my one of the database here, active database, like feed analysis purpose. So I'm just putting into the connection name and choosing my database, and that's where it's gonna store the complete data. But I need to choose here my database name, database ID, and the collection. That's a we need to create within the Cosmos DB. These are the fields, or we can put it here in the document format as output, which we are choosing here. So the information is going coming back to Cosmos DB and saving as the output into a document format. So I'm going to show you in a minute or so once the information is pulled out how it's going to store. Now let's jump into the conditions like if else or true case kind of condition here. So if this condition is the translation has some kind of value that is contains like Azure as a keyword, which I wanted anything as a star Azure star. So that means if anything contains the Azure. So what I wanted to do is, if that's the case is true, I wanted to send it to Outlook. And then it should be send me an email. So this is where the key thing which I want to send as an email to the email ID and the subject and the body of that, all that I would fill up. And then once I save and run this specific logic app, then it's gonna give me more information. So here I just translated, and I have to just click on run. That would actually run my logic app, and if it is success, it will be showing in the down as a success and run history and the time. And then if I click on that, it would be actually showing me the logics which are within the submitted with the inputs and outputs. So the input is a feed, and then it has translated this the value was come, and then it was translating here exactly that values, and output was translated to some other language, and then here you see the output is coming up, and now we are actually that contains some kind of value as Azure. We're storing into the Cosmos DB. So let's go back to Cosmos DB and check out this information is there or not. This is our Cosmos DB Data Explorer feeds, so you can check out it's gonna actually in the documents, it's actually saved all this information automatically. So this is where we also use the Cosmos DB. Now since we have the Azure keyword, we got one of the email saying so this is how you can use the logic apps. This is one example that what we can talk about it. In the previous demo, we also we played with the logical apps, and also if you think that within the logical apps, take one more example as if it gets sent out that has a certain hashtag in that, and that could actually trigger our logical apps to perform some kind of work. And because it works with both Microsoft Azure as well as the third-party services, this logical apps, it makes our logical apps a very great way to integrate various different applications and data and systems together for our B2B or business to business integrations as well. So again, when functions in the logical apps is a really best when we deal with workflows and complicated process that we wanted to run. And Azure Functions is a better in sort of microservices environment where we have more simpler workloads to perform, and we just wanted our code to run based on the events that are triggering by some other application or something like that. Another last solution within the Azure Serverless computing would be the Azure Event Grid. It's basically event routing services. We call it. You see here, the events would be routed within the Event Grid. So it's really along with the line of Azure messaging services like ServiceBus, EventHub, things like that. It's going to work by integrating with that, and all of these messaging and event services really represents applications and systems to communicate with each other. And in the past, typically applications could directly call other applications, but the better approach for the best practices approach towards the kind of inner system communication nowadays is to have all your systems send messaging and events to central hub communication or central place or central hub like Azure Event Grid, and read messages only when they need to perform certain actions. We mentioned in the previous lessons, for example, e-commerce shopping cart application sending a message that an order was made to be messaging hub so that the shipping application could really take that message and it can read off that hub from the hub and make shipping label. And in that way, both applications don't have to talk with each other, both the messaging hub. And so Azure Event Grid is a really serverless computing portion of the messaging services that with the event grid, and we have fully automated serverless event routing services within the event grid. So it's not that events are coming into the event grid just from the consumer. It can also come from other ways, and that event grid would automatically handle immediately with our messaging services. We have to wait till the applications read from the messaging queue to see if there are any work to perform. But with the event grid, we wire up what we need to happen when an event happens automatically, and so that when that event does come in our serverless function or logical app, or whatever the trigger it happened that we have for event grid, message automatically kicks off as a message comes, they are immediately processed. And so you can think about event grid as this way to immediately process events the second the application sends out on through, and it does all that again using the serverless technology, so we don't have to manage the infrastructure or scale it at all, and it's managed by Azure for us. So I hope this entire lesson is helpful for you to get an idea about Azure Functions and Azure Logic applications and Azure Event Grid. I'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you for watching this.